Hey, happy Monday, everyone. Hope you are doing well. It is a holiday today, and so we are at home. We are off today. It is, it, we've never had this holiday, at least in 25 years that I've worked for the school district, we've never had this day off. This is the first year that we were given the day off. And so, yeah, I'll take it. It's uh, what was previously Columbus Day, and I believe it's now known as Indigenous Day. But anyways, I'm glad to be home. I'm glad to be in relaxed mode, and this is In the Raw, unscripted, unpracticed, unedited conversation. And I have a question. It might be a silly question. How many of you have a scar? I'm not talking about the little cuts that you get on your fingers, or and then they scar up. I'm talking like a scar, maybe a surgery that you had. Maybe you had a bad injury when you were young, or recently, or whatever. But most likely we all have a scar somewhere on our body. And I want to talk about scars. And here's how I define what a scar is. It's a pain that leaves a mark in you. Everybody knows, what a scar is, of course. A pain that leaves a mark in you in some way, shape, or form. And I think there's two different forms that scars come in. One of the scars can be healed, like the one you get on your fingers, for example, a paper cut, for example, something very minor. And it heals quickly, it hurts when it happens, but then it heals, and you don't see the scar anymore. And then there's scars that are serious, that takes a long time to heal, like a surgery, or you had a laceration, you had an accident, you need to get stitched up, and it takes a long time to heal. I have a couple. I had surgery about 30 years ago, and I have a scar for that. And I also I had an accident, and I hit my head with going into the shower not too long ago, and I have a scar for that in the back of my head. And those two took a long time to heal. You have to wait, and you have to be patient. And so there's also different forms. One form is a physical scar, which is what I've been talking about. And, it's a physical scars, the ones you can see on bodies. We all seen those, or we have those. And then there's an emotional scar. And this is the one I want to talk about, the emotional scar. And so the question is, what is an emotional scar? And I want us to look at what the Bible says and answer the question that way. I'm going to read Jeremiah 8:19. Jeremiah 8:19 says, "My grief is beyond healing. My heart is broken." This is Jeremiah speaking, and he's known as the crying prophet, right? He was always complaining about something, it seems like. And so he says, "My grief is beyond healing. My heart is broken." And another way you could say it is, "My scar is beyond healing. My heart is broken." And so let me give you one extreme. I guarantee that most of us have had a broken heart at some point. Heavy things have happened to us that we might say, or we probably said at that point, "My grief is beyond healing." And, we can talk a lot about different topics on scars, emotional scars, and it's not going to heal, We might say that because it's beyond healing. Maybe somebody was abused physically, verbally, sexually, molested, raped, and it could be somebody that was close to you, or someone that you trusted. And so these scars are deep. And, I guarantee you, if statistics are true, in the neighborhood of probably over 30 to 40% of people have pretty severe scars, emotional scars. There's another extreme, and that would be people that are saying, I've had relationships that have been broken off, and I've been guilty because of some things that I've done wrong, or I was cut from the team, or from a team, or friends abandoned me, and those are very real scars. They're just a different extreme. So, there's people that are one extreme that, it's not that big of a deal. There's people that are on the other extreme, which was a real big deal. And then there's actually everybody else is in between these two extremes. Because here's the reality of life. Life hurts. That's true. Life hurts. To live in this world hurts. And Jesus knew this. And Jesus said, I've told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows. Jesus said, here on earth you will. And that this is a very important word. He's not saying you might. Jesus doesn't say you might have sorrows. He's saying you will have sorrows. And so also he says many. You will have many trials, right? Many pains. But there's something that he says after this. And he says, but take heart because I have overcome the world. And I want to say to you right now, if you are over here in this extreme, or you're on this other extreme, and you have these deep scars, I want to say to you, Jesus wants to meet you in those scars and bring healing to them. He wants to bring healing to your scars. Proverbs 13, I love this verse. It says, a reliable messenger brings healing. A reliable messenger brings healing. And so, the messenger is the one that carries a message, and so I am the messenger that's carrying this message from God. There is healing. There is healing for those scars. And I want to continue talking about this. So in the next video, I will continue talking about what all this means. All right. I hope you have an amazing day, an amazing rest of your week. Didn't mean to start on this note, but I hope everything goes well for you. We'll talk to you soon.